there are some people who can't come to the meeting that would like to have this information. So.
I wanted to let you know, I'm Cheryl. We have my son's name on there and we haven't figured out how to change it.
Okay, Cheryl.
So that's Jack.
Yeah, Catherine has a list of all the invites that we sent out, so hopefully we'll be able to follow up with people who are on the call. And maybe even if they weren't able to make it, then we can still get people in there.
Thank you for recording it. I have to step out for a little section to have an appointment on the phone. So I was wondering if you'll be able to share the recording with all of us today, or people that have to our email maybe?
That is our intention. That is our intention. I haven't done it, so I have to figure out how to do it. Yeah, we all are on a steep learning curve, or at least I am. I don't know about else.
All right, well, I'm going to go ahead and open up. How about we look at some photos?
How about, I just have a couple announcements, Davette, before we start.
Yeah, sure.
Welcome. I'm Catherine Maresca, and I run the Center for Children and Theology, and Davette is our star toddler trainer and our only toddler trainer. But she started well over 10 years ago with a real big passion for toddlers and their parents. And I think this is what has made her courses really accessible and unique, because most of the Montessori based work with toddlers is about the toddlers and less about the parents. And so Davette has really embraced the parents into her program and includes them. I wanted to clarify right up front that we are really relying on the people in this course having level 1 training, because we won't be in an atrium, and we'll be assured then that you have, when we name the Good Shepherd, you know what we're talking about, and we can show you the adaptation, and you have already the Montessori methodology of introducing children to a work and letting them work and observing their work in place. And so we really could not do this course in the time frame we have without that, that 3 to 6 work being done. I also wanted to clarify that the course focuses on children between the ages of 18 and 36 months. So we're not talking about infants, and we're not doing 3 to 6. We're hitting that space in between. So just so you know that's our target area. We intend, people have requested, and we intend to develop and offer something that is for parents with their children at home. So that would be a shorter, not a training course, but a shorter session with parents to begin to offer them some ways to begin to nurture their relationship with God and their children's relationship with God at home. So that is something to watch for, but that we have the intention of doing that. I'm going to turn on the chat, and I'm going to ask you to mute yourselves and type in questions as they come up. And then we'll have a record of the questions. And if we don't answer them all in this hour, we'll be able to go back and catch them and send out an email. I have all your emails collected, so we can write one email and send it to all of you with any further information. So if there's any information that you think would help us with our planning, or questions that you have about the course, please feel free to type those things in. Rebecca Malone, I am recording. And then you might want to go to speaker view if you haven't already. I have it on gallery view because I'm enjoying all your faces. But once Davette starts to speak, she'll be showing some pictures as well. So you might want to have your Zoom meeting on speaker view, which is up in the right-hand corner of your laptops, if that's what you're on. Okay, Davette, take it away.
All right, everyone. I'm Davette Himes, as Catherine had said. We've had a sort of a toddler space in our atrium going on, golly, 10 plus years now. And it started out really as sort of a passion of mine and some parents in the parish who were looking for community. And at that point, the atrium was set up for 3 to 6 year olds, and we have all 3 levels through level 3. And so I feel like even from the beginning, when we started 2001, my son was 18 months old, and I would sit him down and say, Matthew, spin beans. And then he'd get up and want to go set the altar and the prayer table like the other kids. And so I feel like I've been doing toddlers since I've had children. And it really became a focus and a blessing to the parish in a way that I didn't realize so many other people were seeking this kind of community. And what's unusual, I think, about our parish and our atrium, and a lot of y'all already know this, is that our parish atrium was started as outreach. And so we had a very small group of children, but then we reached out to serve primarily families in the community outside of the parish. And so the outgrowth of that was this wonderful weekday parent toddler group. And then we started having the parents on Sundays. Also, they weren't catechists, they weren't trained. We had kids in the nursery, and we spent some time with them, giving them some of the foundational aspects of catechesis and the developmental needs of their children. And we sort of started from there. We started small, and we started what we had. I'm very big on things being accessible to people. And so it's important to know that we started in our church nursery, and we sort of rehabbed the materials that we had there. I had a great friend who told me, Davette, get going, get started. My first real push came about 2009, that one of those first or second, the early Reading Our Gifts. And Silvana Montanaro was there, and she gave a talk, and she talked about the catechesis of parenthood. And that really stuck with me, because as a young parent in our parish, one of the things that really was sort of my driver was that baptismal covenant. And I thought, oh my gosh, I will, with God's help, have my children know God, but how are we going to do this? And I found the Catechism of the Good Shepherd, and so the rest is history. It was life altering, and it also pointed the way to go younger. And if you read Silvana and Sophia, there was always room for this work. And so I thought, well, let's try it. And so what I'm going to share today is what we've been doing for over 10 years in our parish. And it has happened that some of those toddlers now are in my level 2 and 3. And the beauty and blessing of that is that those families didn't opt out of church. They stuck. They're still coming. And it's been wonderful to be able to share this with families all over, I want to say, Northern Virginia, Maryland, DC. People have traveled to come to have this experience. And so I think in the world of Good Shepherd and this time of COVID, and we've got families at home, some of the things that we'll be sharing in this course are not dependent on being in an atrium with materials. There are many, many ways of sharing God, ways of being with your child, ways of prayer with young children that families can utilize at home. And so I'm going to show you a couple pictures of the atrium space, pictures from the cohort that we had a couple years ago. And then I will show you just an overview of some of the things we're going to touch on in the course. And then we'll have a brief period for Q&A. And then please do utilize the chat, because if you have questions that we don't get to in this call today, in this session, we will follow up afterwards to all of you. So I'm delighted to have everyone here. And I thought of how we start in the atrium, and usually with song or with prayer. And take yourselves to a place in your heart when you first knew that Good Shepherd. And when you knew God, what was your earliest memory of something larger than yourself, right? And when can you remember just that feeling of, I know there's something there. Think of that child who was looking at the stars Sophia talked about, and he said, I know there's something more. It's God. And I think that's the gift that we can give our families, to slow down and take a moment and just live and observe their children, because these moments are fleeting. And the toddler space for parents with their children, it's a beautiful place to try to capture some of that. And then it's more parent coaching so that they can be intentional and aware of those moments when they happen at home. Because parents actually are the first teachers, and parents are the first catechists of their children, long before they come to us. And so the Parent Toddler Atrium, what they say about Montessori, it's not a teaching method, it's a lifestyle. So if you think of some of the takeaways from the Parent Toddler Atrium, we're coaching families to live a holy life in the home and to nurture their child, mind, body, and spirit. And so with that, I'm going to show just a little, some pictures of an environment, and then our training environment, which I will be having some photos of. This is uncut video of just our little prayer corner. My 19-year-old and I ran up to church literally this afternoon. But I'm going to share with you a little video of our space. And then hold your questions about materials and the environment and all that kind of stuff, because then we will we'll take all that in the chat. Okay. And then, okay. Oh, it's telling me I can't play. Okay, we're going to move on. I'll go to still photos. And I'll talk a little bit about the Toddler Atrium. It's a joyful place. And we have the parents who come in and they're with their children. And so we're giving them gospel. They're learning about how to introduce the Bible to their child. We do things with them so that they can do them at home. We live the liturgical year in the seasons, and we're always speaking of God in terms of all things bright and beautiful. The Lord God made them all, and we get them out and we garden. We have materials that are specifically for toddlers, and I'll talk about how we utilize those. The environment's a friendly place, so when the kids walk in the door, it feels very much like a children's home. There's an entryway, it's like the living room, and they come in, they grab their aprons because they're there to work. We have dressing frames and things that are apparatus for toddlers. We also teach the families about nurturing prayer in the home. And then we're going to have practical life exercises that are geared towards toddlers. Very much this space is a place when parents walk in the door, I want them to visualize it being, how can I bring some of this home? And so we literally have a living room, we have a kitchen, we have an area that would be for puzzles and quiet, and then we'd have your sacred space that you would have in the home. And so these are some of the practical works. All of the materials are things that I have sort of designed myself with the idea that I don't want parents to have to go out and spend thousands on Montessori material. And part of the course is practicum on how to make some of these things in your home. And then I'll have tutorials since we're not in person and live. That's a little nightstand from IKEA that we just cut a whole lot of. But these are all things that are translatable for the parish and for the home without a big expense. We spend a lot of time with parents talking about how to observe your child and the posture of the parent. And so this is not a play group. It's not a social group. It's really a group of like-minded families who come, who are interested in Montessori and who want to know how to observe their child and how to serve them in a developmentally appropriate way. Here we are at the prayer table, and we're going to celebrate the seasons of the church year liturgically, just like we do in the church and we do in level 1 atrium. This is a group one year, oh my gosh, we had so many boys, and it was awesome. And all of these kids now, pretty much most of them would be level 2 age kids now. This is some years ago of our group. It's a place for parents to come. I tell them it's a no judgment zone. We're there to support each other. They find families who are interested in exploring their faith and sharing their faith and talking about God and not being afraid to do so. It's a place of peace and a place of quiet. And for many parents, they're frantic with activities. One of the things that we teach them is how to have that calm, quiet time with God, with your child. We have some of the presentations that are present in level 1, but they've been adapted for the toddler atrium, which is why it's important to have that level 1 background, because what we will teach you as catechists is how to adapt your album to fit the needs of the toddler atrium. And so it's also a place where we give parents resources like things that were familiar that they would have at home, but then we throw in some things that are from the church and show them how they can set these things up in their home as well. Prayer is one of the highlights of the session. We always begin and end in prayer. And even with these very young children, they look forward to it, and it's something that we model for them when they come to the toddler atrium. This is Sunday, and I know because this child is very dressed up. So the same thing that falls for our families who come to the weekdays, we're finding in parish. It's also been a very powerful tool for the children. And again, taking that 2.5 to 3-year-old and putting them in a setting that is perfect for them. And so this is just a little taste of some of what you might see in the toddler atrium. We talk about developmentally appropriateness. Here are the different sizes. I have 3 sizes of chairs because we go from 18 months to 36 months. And this is a sample that I'll leave you with of a prayer table at a home from one of our toddler families. And so many of the things that we do in the toddler atrium, the families are then taking these ideas home and then being able to utilize them in the home. And so what we will have is an outline of presentations seasonally that we do in the toddler atrium. I had sat in on a talk from seminary, Virginia Seminary, and they said that we are formed, right, by the feasts and celebrations of the church year. And so the foundational aspect of a toddler atrium are those feasts of the liturgical year that help us to keep God's time. And so by laying this out for families and doing seasonal activities in the toddler atrium, those are some of the things that we're able to share with them that they can implement in the home. And so we're going to cover who is the toddler, right? So remember, who is a 3 to 6 year old child? Well, who is the 12 to 18-month-old child, right? We're going to cover what are the needs and capacities of these very young children, right? We're going to talk about how do we take some of those presentations from the level 1 atrium and make them essential for an 18 to 36-month-old, because a 2-year-old is not a 3-year-old. And so the presentations will be even more spare. And so we'll talk about how you do that as a catechist. We'll talk about how do you coach parents to be able to do this with their children in the home. We will cover materials making. So we'll have some time where I will do some tutorials, which obviously will be by video, or we'll make some materials, right? I will give you notes on observation, and we've got a list of resources and books. Like once people sign up, obviously you'll get the syllabus and the readings and the background. That will be very helpful for the course. And then what we are asking, since we are not real time, is that once it's safe and people are able to get out, that they are able to visit a toddler Montessori community. If there's not one near you, what we hope to do, because this will be our 4th cohort, as Catherine has said, we've got people all over the country, and even some international people who are trying this. And so we're hoping to pair people up so that, again, once it is safe, you will be able to travel to see a toddler environment. I'll share a little bit from our last cohort that we had, which was just kind of fun. And these were in Alexandria. So just give you kind of, what does it feel like for a course? So this was this was 2 groups ago. I see some familiar faces there. I will have resources that we would give to parents in the home. So this is the living room area of the atrium. And then I intentionally select picture books and things that parents may not necessarily see in the library, but that are faith-based, that they can integrate to the library that they have at home. And so I will share many of these resources with families. I love that all things bright and beautiful. This is the day the Lord has made, let us rejoice and be glad in that. But then we'll also have Blueberries for Sal or All in a Day. So things that are familiar to parents, again, that they can bring home. We do some cooking. So I will be sharing some, I'll put on my Martha hat and we'll do some cooking and baking. And again, I hope to have these on video for you all along with the recipes. Because we do cook in the toddler atrium. One of the characteristics of the toddlers, I tell the parents, you don't need to go out and buy Montessori materials. They want to be with you. How can you integrate them more into the life of the home? And so this is one of the activities that we do. This is a shot of me with the geography. We were able to have some custom materials made, puzzles and things for the toddler atrium, and I'll talk about how you can resource those for your environments. I will demonstrate, this is the baptism corner, and I will be filming. In parish, we have permission to do this. And so I will be able to film the presentations from our environment. This was just one of our participants bought their toddler who jumped right in and wanted out the material, which I thought was wonderful. We'll cover practical life. We'll cover prayer with the young child. We'll talk about the seasonal celebrations and the parables and the infancy narratives. How do you do that with toddlers? That's all going to be part of the course and what you're doing with them. I made a short video. I'm taking my an eye on the time. I'm going to show you just a little sample of what I'm hoping to do. And this is, I'll show you the language cards because this is taking something from level 1. And then what we're going to do is how we're going to utilize that with toddlers. And so this is, as I said, it's not edited video. but it will give you an idea, a sense of the possibilities. And then I'm going to end with a parish that's sort of a as a case study. But this is language cards.
Davette, I'm just seeing your screen.
You're just seeing my screen? Okay.
Yeah.
Was it sharing? Let me try this again. Are you seeing the video?
Yes.
Okay, great. So this is wooden materials that I have painted. And we're taking the language cards, the tracing packets from level 1 actually. And what we would do is when you introduce these materials for the first time, this is the chalice, this is the paten, this is the cross, these are the candles, right? Or this is the crucifix. That would be the initial presentation to your 18-month-old. This is the cross. These are the candles. And then for our 2-year-olds and for the older child, taking something that we already have from level 1, and for those tracing packets, those 8x8 cards, now they're language cards. Now in a Montessori toddler environment, you would have no words, just pictures initially. And then for the older child, you can have the cards in level 1 with the words. I grabbed these to show what you can do with something that you already have from level 1. And what toddlers are doing is they're matching, right? And so we'll talk about one-to-one correspondence and visualizing and how they acquire language, because the bulk of our work with them will be giving them lots of language from the church, right? It's not so much about presentations, it's going to be a lot of language. Right? So that is just a simple exercise that you can do with something that you already have for toddlers. And then stop sharing that. And then just one other quickie. This is just pouring beans. And so we'll do some practical life types of activities. And then we'll have a bank of these. And what we'll do is we'll keep these in a password protected area of the website for the toddler cohort, so you can refer to these videos, right? And so I'm going to switch gears here because I'm watching the time. I'm going to show you very quickly a very brief picture of an atrium in our area, that cohort that started in DC from a parent who's bringing her children to come to our atrium. So
Allison is here now.
Oh, Allison's on now. All right, so this is St. Paul's Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C. And it says I'm screen sharing now. Do we all see the initial screen, Catherine?
Yes.
All right, so this is St. Paul's K Street, Anglican, high Anglican-ish style worship, Episcopal Church in downtown DC. This was, I don't know, a random room that there was a bunch of stuff piled in there. This is what we started with. It literally was a catch-all for stuff. And then we went to Michael's. We did some magic with paint. And we made some language cards. And so this is, again, a Montessori toddler type material, whereas in level 1, you would have labeling, right? There's no labeling, it's just matching pictures. But this is the space. So it went from that a room that was just sort of a catch-all to this beautiful space for toddlers. And we actually, initially, we had to put stuff in the hallway. So that was our practical life with a tile floor. They've now taken that wall down to make more space. So to give you an idea of how we've adapted some materials, then all you need is kids, right? And we were full. part of the job of the parents, we will coach them and teach them on how to observe their children and take notes so they can use them at home. And then again, I'll just quickly go through a couple of these to see the idea of community. And the parents are there not to talk to their kids or engage with them. They're there to observe them and help them find their way. And if you imagine, introducing them, so if you have this holy spot, this corner that's has a sense of the holy, the children will respect that. And they treat these materials different than the more secular materials. There's a seasonal celebration of the wheat, and it's a little bit different with toddlers than with an older child. And then I'm going to back out of it. I'm just going to scroll down. Here's a parent at baptism with their child. And then I want to get down to these beautiful shots. I'm always looking at the aspect of the parents with their child. We did some cooking, but it's very peaceful. And their focus is the child. And think if you had 45 minutes, 90 minutes, where a parent is completely focused on their child, what a gift that is, right? That's a blessing in itself for the parents. That was our Irish soda bread for St. Patrick's. And then we end with our communal snack, where we have everyone together and we light a candle. And I would read The Good Shepherd, or we'd read Manners Time. And then you have these parents who are observing the catechist, and they're going to take all of the things that they've learned home. There I am doing an infancy narrative, and if you see the affect of the parent in the background, intently watching, so that when the parent is home, they can do this themselves and implement it at home with their children. That's that lovely shot of us looking at the globe. And it nurtures families. And I'll leave you with this final picture. That was our first cohort of parents for the toddler group. And then these parents, in turn, would take what they had sort of learned in the toddler atrium, and it gave them really a new way of being with their children and incorporating sort of the life of the church. If you think of your home now, especially in this time of COVID, if we think of a home as like your little family cloister, right? There are many beautiful things that we could take home for the atrium, but the parents just need a window to that. And so if they can attend atrium and be catechized along with their children, then they are able to go out and live that baptismal covenant and have a gentle way of introducing God in the home and nurturing their child's spiritual life. So, okay. So I saw there's some questions. There are a couple questions that were in the chat.
Yeah, Sister Catherine asked what your time frame is for each session.
We are going to break up the session into blocks, right? So we're thinking 3 hours. It's going to be over 2 weeks, so 10 days during the week. And then we'll have little mini breaks within that. And so we're not asking people to be online for 6 hours a day. We're thinking 3 hours with a break or two in between. And then also, since it's going to be recorded, you will also be able to go back, right, and reference the material online at your leisure. And we'll also be loading some presentations, like the practical life ones, right, that you can look at your own pace and go right back to you. So that's why I said some things in Zoom will be actually, you couldn't do that in the regular course. Let's sort of once and done. And if you saw it, you saw it. And if you missed it, you missed it. So one of the real blessings of this is to be able to go back and have that little archive that you can take a second look. You can see that again. And then I will be able, since we do have this chat feature, when you have a question about something, that won't be lost. We'll be able to capture that. And then one of the things that I do in my level 1 course already, which I found has been helpful, is that I plan a 30-minute conference with everyone just to check in probably about midway during the course, just individually, so that they can, if they have something that, as my rector would say, is not for the good of the community, but maybe is a question that they have that is really germane to their parish or very specific, we'll have time to touch base. And so it's kind of exciting to use some aspects of this format. We'll be able to save notes. I'll be able to use a PowerPoint. So if you can't read the whiteboard or someone's scrawl, that won't be a problem, right? We'll be able to do album pages collaboratively. So there are some strengths of this platform that we can really exploit for catechesis.
So Sister Catherine also wanted to know what a session with the toddlers and parents, how long that was.
90 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
On Sundays, 45 minutes, because that's what we have for Sunday school.
And here's another question. If there are twins, can only one parent be present or would both need to be there?
Oh, no, this is the beautiful of the toddler atrium. So they can have lap babies, right? So imagine you have a 2-year-old, you have an infant, you're nursing, and you've got a 4-year-old. Guess what? Everybody can come. Right? And I have dads take off work or moms take off work for that weekday atrium that we have. On Sundays, both parents are in the atrium. They trade off.
And so if there are twins, do you want a parent with each child or is one parent enough for the two children?
Oh, I understand. So one parent is enough, but the beauty of the other special thing about Parent Toddler Group is they really do form a cohort of parents. Mm-hmm. And so if someone's struggling, mm-hmm. after the first month and we all know each other, mm-hmm. The other parents, just like if you're at the playground and someone's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to grab your kid while you grab this one, they all jump in and help each other.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Let me see what else we have here. Oh, can we share this recording with the rector? That's fine with me.
Oh, absolutely.
Of this, yeah, it can be shared with anyone. The big question is, how are we going to share it with you? So we'll get to that as soon as we can. Suzanne asked for suggestions for what to say to a rector who wants wiggle worship for toddlers. Does anyone have experience with this? I've never heard of that.
That's not necessary, honestly. I saw another question come through. Our program is actually a model for the diocese in the Episcopal Church. The Diocese of Virginia, I think, is the second largest diocese. I think it's over 70,000 families. Yeah, this is held up as if you can do it. It's aspirational for a lot of parishes because they don't get catechesis of the Good Shepherd, which is why this is also another good way to be a goodwill ambassador for CGS. I saw a question, someone asked if parents become catechists. Yes. Actually, 3 of my best catechists started with our toddler group. I mean, I don't mean best like the most expert, but the ones who stuck. Who didn't say, I'm going to do this. Oh, I don't want to be a catechist anymore. I mean, my level 2 catechist, his child was a toddler, right? I've had several level 1 catechists. Their kids were toddlers, right? Level 2, level 3 catechists. I'm the level 3 catechist. Level 2 catechists, several started with our toddlers. I'm
training a level 2 catechist now, right? Isn't
yes.
Yeah.
And his daughter was a toddler.
Yeah, yeah. Let's see. Here's a question about your bread. Does your host look like bread so that they understand the host is bread? And I suspect this might be a Catholic Episcopal thing.
Yeah, Catholic Episcopal thing, or not even Catholic Episcopal. Just you're going to model for your toddlers. And I'm in an Episcopal parish. Okay, you're going to model for your toddlers what they will see in your parish, right? And so, if a host is more appropriate for you, have a host, right? We back in the day, we used to have beautiful homemade bread. Those were the days. Mm-hmm. And then they went back to the wafers, and it's gone back and forth. And so, yeah, so you were, so all the materials, there are no official materials for this. So everything you see are things that I have just thought, well, I'm going to do this with this. And I'm going to look at Montessori toddlers. Oh, 0 to 3, they have language cards. Oh, instead of matching farm animals, we're going to match sheep because we have those in the Good Shepherd sheepfold. To do that one-to-one correspondence they do in toddlers where they match the exact thing with the exact thing. Well, instead of, I don't know, school buses and trucks, we're going to match the pattern. We're going to match different styles of crosses and crucifixes, right? So taking a Montessori toddler concept and then taking that concept and then moving it to the atrium, having that background in level 1 catechesis, that's important. Knowing what your doctrinal aims are, doctrinal points are, right? And what's your aim with those materials. And then I just sort of, that's my methodology and how my brain works with the toddler space. And then that's when I make the material.
Now here's a question, Davette. In the first set of pictures of the toddler atrium with the children, someone thought you had some ringers in there that looked like they were 3 or 4 years old.
Oh no!
So
So
are they
here,
all? Were
they're
they all
toddlers?
toddlers?
But
And then how do they transition into level 1?
And then they transition to level 1. But there may have been a couple of kids who were there. Remember my mom that's got a 4-year-old,
Oh yeah.
a 2-year-old, and a nursing baby?
Mm-hmm.
So when they come to toddler group, they pay for one child, right? And then, oh well, that's the weekday people pay. We don't charge on Sundays. But if you saw older children in the mix, it might have been a weekday parent who now is able, if I say, you have a large family, you've got 6 kids, well, leave the other 5 at home and just bring your 2-year-old and come to atrium, right? And so my space is unique in that our atrium doesn't have walls. So imagine 2,000 square feet with level 1, 2, 3, and toddlers in the same space. And so that the floor is color coded. And so the level 1 kids, they're on the yellow floor, toddlers on the green floor. And so I have, if you have a 3-year-old who comes on Sunday, who's also coming during the week, they can go on the yellow floor and do their work. And the parent can stay with that toddler and work in the toddler area.
And then they just transition into level 1. How do you know when they're ready for that?
The kids self-select, which is awesome. I love having the toddler space, particularly on Sunday, because if they're not ready for level 1, they will gravitate to the toddler area. And then they decide when they don't want the toddler area anymore, and they'll switch from the green floor to the yellow floor. It's so great because you have some 3-year-olds who are really honestly not ready for level 1. And you may have families want to like, oh, they're 3, take them in the atrium, but developmentally they're not ready. And so if you could have both actually and let the child actually decide, it's great. As a catechist to watch that, I don't push kids into level 1 just because they're 3, or I don't push toddlers out vice versa because they've had a birthday. I look at them to see if they're looking at the materials in level 1. They're all invited. We tour with the parents at the end of the year and say, well, you can think about it over the summer. And with toddlers, a month could be like a year of development. So there's a learning curve working with toddlers. We're going to cover this in the course, how their developmental stages go very quickly. And how as a catechist, you really have, if you haven't been a keen observer of children, to be able to do this parent-toddler space, you really do have to become expert at observation. So you'll know when kids are ready to move.
And then a couple practical questions about the dates and the cost. And so the dates are July 13 to 24, exclusive of the weekend. So it'll be Monday to Friday, 2 weeks in a row. We'll meet every day from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. And this will accommodate people in different time zones in the country, as well as someone from Africa.
Yes.
After she puts her children to bed. And the cost is $400. If more than one parent or one participant attends from the same atrium, there is a discount. And you can find all this on our website at cctheo.org. if you type in the search for Parent Toddler course. Let's see. Here's a question. Our parish does not have an elementary school. We would like to do outreach to younger families. Any suggestions?
I'm all about outreach. My daughter says, "Oh my gosh, Mom, it's something for the no church babies." All right, this is something for the no church babies and the babies who have church, or maybe babies whose parents have decided, well, you know what? I grew up Methodist and you're Catholic, or I'm Jewish and you are that, and we're not going to have that fight, so we're not going to go anywhere. Guess what? If you have an outreach, this is a place for those families to go. And we've had several beautiful stories of mixed religion families who decided to have no religion because they didn't want to argue about it. But then they found this beautiful space, this Montessori place where they could spiritually nurture their child, because everybody's spiritual and nobody's religious, right? And it has been amazing, because I've had families tell me, "Oh, well, Mrs. Himes, we've been coming and we decided to find a church. Not your church, but we found a church." Hey, that's okay. Guess what? That no church baby, they're going to know God now. And their families have found a way, because, we know there are people who are adults who've been wounded by church, who got mad at church, who decided, I'm going to have kids and I'm not going to have anything to do with that. And so I feel like this parent toddler space, now I'm getting on my soapbox, you've seen me excited. This is my passion about this, because it really overarching. I feel like the families on Sundays, this is a great help, and it's a bulwark to help them live that baptismal promise. But if you're opening something as outreach, it goes tenfold. And it's been very powerful. We know how the atrium is a powerful experience. I've literally had parents in tears, and we've had to go to the playground. And then we have a moment, the parent and I, because it's hit them. Oh my gosh, what have I kept my child from? What God speaks to them through their children. So this is a powerful ministry. We're not talking about wiggle worship here. This is not what this is, right? This is taking that same theology that we have in the level 1 atrium. This is not about making something cute for families. And I tell people, this is not a play group. If they call me on the phone, here's my 2-minute speech. Hi. Oh, you're interested in our Montessori? No, we're not a Montessori school. What we have is Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, which is a Montessori approach to the spiritual life of your child. I don't say religious because they might hang up. Then I say, what the presentations we do come from the Good Shepherd. They're still on the phone? Okay, they got Jesus. They're hanging with me. Then I say, you are welcome to come and visit our space to see if it's a fit for your family. And I literally had a parent who had, Judaism, but that was their background. One parent was Jewish, the other was Catholic. And this parent was out in the parking lot speaking to another Jewish parent, grandparent, who was struggling and thinking like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm at this church. And I love it. She was so pastoral. She said, well, you know what? If it bothers you how it looks, it's not for you. But if you go in and give it a try, right? And see if it's a fit for your family. So that's what I tell those families who are just coming cold off the street. See if it's a fit for your family. And guess what? I'm not trying to sell them anything. I'm not trying to give them my theology. I'm just saying, come and see. And guess what? A lot of those interfaith families, they find a way in, or they find a way to respect both religions, right? And particularly for grandparents, it's awesome. Grandparents are welcome.
Here's a related question. How do you let folks in your community know about your parent-toddler space?
Oh, that's a whole other workshop. We don't, but basically, if you want to know about marketing,
that would be part of the course.
Yeah, and I'll give them some Instagram, Facebook. I had a meetup group. Meetup actually is plaguing me now because I'm ready to shut it down. There's 80 people on the meetup group that signed up. And
And
it's
sign over your porch.
oh, I have a banner on my
Yeah.
porch.
It can be seen from the street. Yeah.
Um, our biggest outreach, some people know about this, and some of my ringers in the audience, I don't know if we didn't have a chance to get them to talk, but we have this thing called an Advent Fair, and that began as a project for our toddler group. And they set up all the activities, they get food donated, and it started out with about our very first cohort, about 6 or 8 families, and we had 30 people come. Then the next week it was 50, then it was 100, then it was 150. So now I think we're up to 200 people that come to spend the day with us and see the Annunciation and make Advent wreaths. And they go out and tell their friends, because the buzzword in ministry now is relational, right? The Parent Toddler Atrium is relational. And so you just need that one viral parent, right? Who comes and says, wow, this is actually good. And then let them market for you. We don't really have to advertise because I have a limited space, and I cut the group to 8 families, 10 max. I mean, if I had a good shepherd center and I could hire staff, I do it every day of the week. And those are your level 1 families. Those are your catechists.
Now, this is the most powerful thing I ever heard Davette say about marketing. And this was at a roundtable of catechists in the Washington area. And she said, when parents decide to put their toe in the water of bringing a child to church, they will go into a parish to see if it's a fit for their family. And you have about 10 minutes before they've decided up or down. And Davette stalks those families, catches them in that 10-minute window, shows them the changing room, shows them the nursing rocking chair, shows them the toddler atrium, and just makes them see that their child is totally welcome into a space that's prepared for them. So I thought that was pretty powerful.
I love it. They really do.
Yeah. Here's an unrelated question. Is music integrated, and how?
Yes, there's lots of singing. We sing at the prayer table. Depending on my cohort, like one year I had a mom as a kindergarten music teacher. I had a mom as a Suzuki violin teacher. Anybody who has any musical talents, we share them with the kids. So all that singing and everything you do in level 1, double that in the toddler atrium. So yes, there's music, and we have musical instruments for the kids. So that would be part of their sensorial materials. I have little bells for them. It's lovely. We have lots, and particularly when I have a parent, we also have a parents offer. So yes, music is included. We have scarves we dance around with and march around with. We process with the cross. We do the changing of the colors, all that.
And then there's a question about, do you know if anyone in New England has taken your course? If there's any toddler environments to see there?
Connecticut, does that count?
Yes, that's New England.
All right, I'm just thinking, like, what are those states up there? I know there's states up there. Yeah.
All right, so I think we're ready to wind up. Any final questions, or you have any final comments, Davette? Registration is open now, I will say that, and we have a plan to limit it to 20 so that we can know everybody and see everybody, and break up into small groups that are reasonable. So if you definitely want to take this, I hope you feel free to register soon. If money is an object, that is not our intention. We just need to pay for the expenses. But you can email me. You all have my email, and tell me that, and we can work something out.
Davette, can I say something?
Sure.
Seeing as I've gone through the course.
Yes.
It is transformative to how your parish functions to have the toddler program, because those parents that come and bring their toddlers really are moved by the Holy Spirit, sitting with their children and watching them find Jesus and find faith. And you watch it permeate through the rest of your catechesis. So I recommend everyone that can take the course.
Thanks,
And
Al.
Allison Winter is here too. I don't know if you want to say anything, Allison. That was your parish that we showcased.
No, I didn't know how emotional I was going to feel seeing those pictures. Like, it feels like it's been years, but it has been like 10 weeks since I've been in that space. So I really miss it. I was in Davette's atrium with my children as toddlers, and I was already a catechist too. So, but to spend time in that space as a parent was just such a gift, and certainly shaped my parenting and my spiritual life, just as CGS has. And when we did the weekday atrium at St. Paul's, it is interesting how many of the people who came were people who, parents who were moms who were still, it happened to be moms, dads are invited too, but they were all moms. Many of them were kind of working out their faith too. And it is, as Davette says, it's just lovely to have this space for parents and children to do that walk and that work together. And it's a real gift that I hope many of you can be a part of too.
Thank you.
Thank you, Davette, and thank you everybody for joining us. It was really, really lovely to see your faces and hear your questions. And we will be sending an email to all of you with hopefully a link to this recording, and you can feel free to share that if that would help your work. And also you'll have my email. You already have my email, I think. So if you have further questions, we'd be happy to take them by email as well. Okay.
All right. Thank you, everyone. So glad to have you.
Thank you.
Thank you. God bless everyone. Now I can see who's here or who was here.
No. Hi, Leslie.
Hi, Leslie. I see Rebecca and Linda.
Yeah. Yeah, Rebecca had another meeting. She was at both, I think. Gail, you're our New England person, huh?
I am your New England person. You know Joyce.
Oh yes, you're Boston.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm near Boston, so I've taken my 3 classes with Joyce. Mm-hmm. Kate Cabot was at our parish.
Oh yeah.
I've been in contact. I'm more on Facebook with her than anything else, but Diane Barry in Boston. So I can't believe I finally get to meet you after all these years.
Well, it's nice to meet you too, Gail.
Because every time I sit there and say, I'm going to Weavings, I'm going to Weavings. I'm like, oh, not going to Weavings this year. Yeah, one of the things I kind of, was going to say to you was, and Davette, is since I'm approaching this from, obviously our parish needs to figure out what it's going to do from, on all 3 levels at this point. But, my other thing is, I've been thinking lately about doing going through the formation leader process.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So, which we have, Carol Godfrey is doing a lot, but she's like an hour, 15 minutes, an hour, 20 minutes away. So everybody's like, oh, it's too far.
Yes. We have that problem here, Davette and I.
Yeah. So, being on the North Shore, I think there's some reasons to do it. And plus, I just feel, I have a lot of stuff to, kind of spiritual direction. Do I do this or not? Mm-hmm. But long story short, if I can be of help to either of you because I've got the 3 levels, in doing up, making up stuff, or, if you need something done, please let me know.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's good to know.
So,
All right. Well,
All
I
right,
hope
thank
to
you
see
so
you.
all right. So
All right.
have a blessed evening, both of you.
Oh, you too. God bless.
Okay.
And then I think Rebecca's on another meeting.
Oh, meeting.
So
Oh, I see what
she typed in the thing that she was supposed to be at a CGS meeting. So since we decided to record, she's going to listen to the recording, but she didn't hang up in case she wanted to hop back in. So.
All right, are we still recording or no?
Oh, I should stop now, I guess. Let me see here.